and today I'm going to talk with you about the surreal reality of having an over-provisioned home lab, and what you can do with one of your own. Buckle up, it's going to be a ride. So, to start, what's a home lab? You may have heard of the word before, but nobody really explains it, because why would they? What is it? TLDR, playground for DevOps. It's where you can mess around with things and try to see what you can do with computers. It's where you can research new ways of doing things without hurting anyone, but yourself. Importantly though, it's a place where you can just self-host things that you care about the most. Online platforms are vanishing left and right these days. It's a lot harder for platforms that run on hardware that you can look at to go down without notice. Or go away without notice, sorry. Before we continue though, let's just cover who I am. I'm Z. I live over in Orleans with that guy, and we have 6 servers in the home lab. I'm the CEO of the totally real and totally registered company Xe Iaso, and I'm an avid blogger that's written 550 articles or something at this point. I don't even remember. And I stream programming crimes on Twitch on Fridays. Today, we're going to cover what a home lab is, what you can run on one, a brief history of my home lab, how it got to its current form, the trade-offs I made, what I like about it, and I'll give you a stealth mountain into the fun you can have when you host stuff to the public. Before we get started though, my friend Leg Al told me that I should say this. This talk may contain humor. Upon hearing something that sounds like it might be funny, please laugh. Some of the humor goes over people's heads, and laughing makes everyone have a good time. See? See? You get it. Oh, also, any opinions are my own, and not the opinions of Xe Iaso or any of my former employers. Unless it would be funny for that opinion to be the opinion of Xe Iaso, in which case that would be totally on brand. So, but yes, TLDR, servers at home, it's a home lab. They come in all shapes and sizes, from mini PCs from Kijiji to actual rack mount infrastructure in the basement like the people on our data hoarder have. The common theme though, experimentation, exploration. We do these things not because they are easy, but because when we looked at them the first time, it kind of felt like they might be easy, and you never really know until you try, right? So, to give you ideas, I'm going to show you what I do. I use basically all of this all the time. It's just become a generic place to put stuff that I can trust to keep running and not have to think about it too much. I also have a history in SRE, and now I work in marketing, and as I have not been working in SRE, those skills have been atrophying. I do not want to lose them. So I do stuff kind of weird specifically to keep that muscle alive. One of the services I run is Plex, which lets me... Wait, how did you get there? Like I was saying, one of the services I run is Plex, which lets me watch TV shows and movies without having to go through Donkey's flowchart of doom trying to figure out where to watch them. Remember, it's a service problem. One of the best things I set up, though, was Pocket ID, an OIDC provider. Before your eyes glaze over and you think that's like overcomplicated enterprise bullshit, here's what you should think. A lot of the times with self-hosted services, everything has their own account system, because why wouldn't they? This sucks and does not scale. Sure, it scales for like 4 services, but not to N, where N is something greater than 4. You have to configure admin flags, account set, account details, picture stuff, group information. No. This is what OIDC is for. It's to just do that for you so you don't have to think as much. I wish I set this up a long time ago. I also run a Git server. This is where I keep super secret projects that will become a surprise at a later date. I also run my own GitHub Actions runners because, let's face it, who would win? Free cloud instances that are probably oversubscribed to heck, or the mostly idle home lab 5950X? I'd bet my money on the 5950X every time. Another thing I run is this thing called Longhorn. TLDR, block storage, replicated. So if one of the machines dies, the other machines will just replicate the data or fetch it from the backups and get things running again. I use this so that I don't have to think too much about where the data is, just the fact that it's at least on 2 servers. Some storage classes have 3, but most of them are at least 2 because I don't need super high availability yet. Oh, there's also a NAS. The NAS is not shown here in this 42 terabytes of addressable storage. That has like 64 redundant terabytes of space for like tax documents, stream VODs, and Linux ISOs. Like any good Kubernetes cluster, you have a smattering of support services like Cert Manager and Let's Encrypt, so I don't have to think about certificate renewal. Really great thing. I have external DNS, so I don't have to set DNS records manually. Another really great thing that goes really great with Cert Manager. I use Ingress Nginx as the controller, and by the way, there's been 5 CVEs for Ingress Nginx that came out today, so be aware. I also run a private Docker registry because the Docker Hub has finally realized that their business model is unsustainable. Oops. I have a standard Kubernetes cluster just without the standard sludge pipe architecture. Oh, by the way, I have to thank my friend Eric Klebeck for coming up with the term sludge pipe architecture to describe modern CI and CD. I mean, like, look at this. You just pipe the sludge into Git repos and it flows down into prod. Hope nothing goes down. Like, yeah, seriously. I've also got a smattering of apps I've written for myself over the years, including but not limited to the website for the H programming language, the only Turing incomplete kind language that compiles to WebAssembly. I have Tekaro's website. I have a feed for Blue Sky called Stealth Mountain, where it shows every post where someone said sneak peek instead of sneak peek. That joke works way better in text. I have a personal API that's technically part of my blog's infrastructure because microservices are fun. I have the most adorable chatbot you've ever seen that is special. And I have a bot to post things on subreddit to a Discord for a friend, and I've lost count of the other stuff, but that's the great part about it. I don't have to think. Asterisk. Like I said though, you don't need to start out with a complicated multi-node system with distributed storage. Most of the time you need a computer that can turn on and boot Linux. This is what I started out with. A trash can Mac Pro. It was running Ubuntu, and it's where I learned how to Docker in Anger. I lost the config management for it because it was before I did the config management in any durable way. But it was basically just running Docker Compose on Ubuntu and probably pre-V1 Caddy. Yeah, this was a while ago. But I'm pretty sure that this was also the machine that I used as a test network when I maintained an IRC network. Don't maintain an IRC network. Either way, 12 cores, 16 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage. It was more than enough for my chatbots. It's now my Prometheus server. I'm not joking. And then in 2020, I got the last tax refund I'm probably ever going to get. It was about 2.2 thousand snow pesos, and I wanted to use it to build a multi-node Homelab cluster because nobody stopped me. And I wanted to try doing it without Kubernetes. When I designed the nodes, I wanted to pick something that had a balance of cost, muscle, and wattage. I wanted to get CPUs that had built-in PCI to HDMI converters so that I can attach a crash cart to them without having to power a GPU. This was also before the AI bubble, so I didn't have Langle-Mangles in mind. I made sure to provision them with just enough power supply overhead so I could put a GPU in there if I wanted to do like Stadia at home or something. And basically I designed them to be just good enough to do what I want now, but also just be expandable enough that I can add more hardware into them later. So here's a few of them on screen. They're spread out throughout my house, and the contrast is terrible, so you just trust me that those are 3 computers right there. 2 of them are black, and one of them looks like a former gaming tower, because that's what it is. Most of them use a Core i5-10600 because that had the best balance of CPU threads to performance to wattage. Our landlord made a great mistake, and we don't actually pay for power separately, but you don't want to be on the leaderboard, you know? And the one on the far right used to be my main shell box until I changed everything over to Kubernetes. Not shown are the 2 other nodes, Logos and Shachi. It's my old gaming tower. It has another 5950X, so I got like 100 cores, 180 gigabytes of RAM. It's a pretty good time. Just remember, this is overkill for my needs, but don't diss the power of used floor desktops. Eventually, one of the things, as things went on, Stable Diffusion v1 came out. This was kind of a watershed moment for a lot of local AI stuff, and I think it's really the start of the AI bubble, but I wanted to play around with it because some of the early outputs I saw amused me. We had an RTX 2060 with 6 gigabytes of VRAM laying around, and it was just enough to make it work. Early Stable Diffusion was so much fun. Look at this. The prompt for this was Richard Stallman acid trip in a forest, Lisa Frank, 420, modern computing, vaporwave, best quality. I'm not kidding. This was hallucinated on that 2060. And I used it for a while until bigger models came out. I use that 2060 now to run Whisper to do subtitles for my talk videos when I upload them. But after a while, I got a job at a cloud provider that had a GPU product. And you can see how I just leached off the Slack compute time, eh? But I wanted to run Langle Mangles at home, so I ended up getting a 12 gig 3060 for one of my other nodes. At a certain point, though, a few things happened that made me realize that I had actually kind of gone way off course for what I wanted. My Homelab nodes weren't actually redundant. If any one of them died, I had to do a configuration push to move stuff around. This was not according to Keikaku. Translator's note, Keikaku means plan. Then the distribution I was using made creative decisions in community management, and I realized that my reach as a large-scaled content creator, I hate that term, blogger, was basically advocating to harm people. So I decided to look for something else. Let's be real, this is Kubernetes shaped. I didn't want to admit it at the time, but this actually was a Kubernetes shaped problem. I had a bunch of nodes, I wanted to have a bunch of nodes and just push jobs to them and just have the machine figure it out. That's literally what Kubernetes is there for. I couldn't have that with my previous setup no matter what, because although the technology for doing what I did distributedly did exist, it only existed asterisk. This was kind of a shock, as previously I'd been on record saying that you don't need Kubernetes. At the time I wrote this particular take, though, there were viable options other than Kubernetes. Like Nomad was not known to have any glaring flaws. Docker Swarm wasn't in development purgatory. Like, Mesos, is that still a thing? You get my point, right? Kubernetes in comparison just seemed like an over-engineered pile of jank. And it really didn't help that one of my past jobs was being a sludge pipe operator, YAML merchant, trying to shove things into AWS with a combination of early Argo CD, Jenkins, and I think 4 levels nested of shell scripts. Yeah, don't do that. Pro tip, don't. It also was when Cert Manager was still in development. The CRDs were changing hourly, and everything was in flux, and it kind of almost burnt me out of the industry. Like, Kubernetes itself, it was fine. But it was not enough to just push button and receive bacon to get your web app running. I get that that's not the point of Kubernetes, but at the end of the day, you gotta ship something, otherwise you can't justify your salary to the executives, right? Like, the endless churn of bullshit nearly made me leave the industry. The admission that Kubernetes was what I needed really didn't come easy, and it was one of the last things I wanted to use, but everything died out. Kubernetes sucked all the oxygen out of the room. I had really no choice. It's what I was left with. Then at some point I thought, fuck it, what do I have to lose? And set it up. It actually worked out really great. After a few months, someone in the patron Discord asked me what I thought about Kubernetes in my Homelab, and after using it for a while, my reply was, it's nice to not have to think about it. If you have SRE experience, this is like the Ebert 2 thumbs up, 10 out of 10 praise that you could possibly want. I didn't have to spend too much time or energy on it. I just ran K9s to look at things or kubectl apply to push things, and it just worked out. With that in mind, here's what I like about this. I push button, I receive bacon. If I want to run more stuff, I apply it. If I want to run less stuff, I delete it. Like, I don't have to think more than that. It's beautiful. Backups for the storage system, every night automatically. I've tested the restore procedure, and it works. Pushing apps is trivial. Secrets, 1 password. But honestly, putting new stuff on my Homelab cluster is actually so much easier than deploying stuff at literally any company that I've ever worked. It makes me feel like the entire industry is doing something wrong. Even when I was a sludge pipe operator. But the best part is that I haven't had to fight it. It just kind of works. And I've had instances where I've woken up and been surprised that one of the nodes was down purely because a lot of I saw that the storage was imbalanced. Kubernetes moved it around. Longhorn moved the storage around. It was just like, it just copes with it. And then I just turned on the one machine and it just came back up and everything was fine. So I don't think about it any more than I need to. My apps are available internally and externally. I use a VPS as a over WireGuard to put the traffic from the public out because I do streaming, And if you do streaming, you never reveal your home IP address to anyone, because that's how you get Mr. DDoS hammer coming down on you. But I didn't stop there. I've realized that there's like 3 basic shapes of stuff I deploy to the cluster. The first generic shape of service is the thing that runs somewhere and maybe has some API keys, like a Discord bot, or, I don't know, something that reads an RSS feed and pipes it to a Discord channel. This only really needs a deployment and some attached secrets, right? And sometimes I need to run stuff internally and listen to API calls so I can have like services connect for some reason. Like something exposes a gRPC endpoint, something is a client, you know, they do the HTTP2 client connection and everything works out. Either way, they need a DNS name inside the cluster in Kubernetes that is a service. And then some things are web apps. Web apps are pretty much the same, but they also need a DNS name outside the cluster and a way to get HTTP messages flown to the service and back out to the public. I use Nginx, Ingress Nginx for that. The configuration was a bit fiddly and manual at first. It would be nice to like have convention and just have everything solved for me so I don't have to think about it more than just, oh, this is a Docker image that listens listens to the public on this domain. I just want to think about the app. Like Heroku. I was inspired by how Heroku was when I worked there. With Heroku, you just pushed your code and the platform figured it out. Given that I have like 3 basic shapes of apps, this sounds like the perfect type of thing for a template. I didn't want to use Helm because Helm is mainstream. So what if I just made my own resources in Kubernetes? Though I did that, thanks to Yoke by that guy. I just define an app and it just does everything for me. If the projector was higher resolution, it would look better, but I have some example stuff that'll be on my blog. If I want 1Password secrets, they can be either in the file system or environment variables, and if they're in the file system, they're in /run/secret/name of secret. I don't have to think about it. It's great. Persistent storage, how much do you want? Where do you want it mounted? Everything figured out for you. HTTP ingresses, you specify the domain name and it takes care of the DNS records, the TLS certificates, the rotation, and the free puppies. Everything else is just an implementation detail. This is the ideal interface, the one where you just get what you want and don't have to think. And if you do have to think, then you don't need this, you need to define everything manually. It's honestly kind of amazing. I recently have also been experimenting with adding Kubernetes roles by saying, role, yes, and then describe the roles I want, and it'll create the service account, it'll create the roles, it'll create the role binding. Bob's your uncle. This is something I want to make more generic so that you can use it too. I'll get to it eventually. It's in the cards, probably under the name Takaro Hypercloud. Figure out what the acronym is, you'll understand why it's funny. In the process of messing with my Homelab, I've had to learn to play defense. This isn't something the Jedi will teach you, it's much more of a Sith legend. Just keep in mind, I have problems that you don't. My blog gets a lot of traffic in weird patterns, like when I'm on the front page of Hacker News, which has happened like 55 times. If that didn't happen to me regularly, I'd host it at home, but that happens to me regularly, so I have to be very careful about how I design it, and I host it in a Kubernetes cluster. I think it's in Phoenix, I forget where. The beautiful part about this is that you don't have to know where it is as long as it works. Remember that Git server? Yeah, that's at home. When you host things on the modern internet, bots will just run in once the cert is minted and published to the cert attestation logs and just start pummeling the hell out of it. I like to think that the stuff that I make can withstand this, but some things just aren't us to stuff. It's not their fault, mind you. Modern scraper bots are terrible. Like, it feels like that when modern scraper bots are designed, they have these goals in mind. Oh, the servers are overloaded and sending back non-200 requests? No problem, let's speed it up. We might be able to get a good response in somewhere. Oh, the server's responding anything but 200? Just re-queue again, try it later. What could go wrong? Oh, those Linux kernel commits we're looking at for 15 years ago? They might change in a couple days, so let's scrape everything all over again. Caches? That requires code. We have to move fast and break things. We can't spend time downloading Git repositories and understanding a common format that's used by every developer, including us, can we? Oh, wait, they wised up to us. They're blocking our IPs. No problem. Residential proxy services, baby! We'll just use a different IP for every request. What could go wrong? Pass me the booch, yo. By the way, public service announcement. Free VPN? No. Very no. Residential proxy services, which are the scourge of the internet and why I have trouble fighting bots, are powered by free VPNs. If you do not pay for the service, you are the product. Remember that. What makes this worse is that Git servers are the most pathologically vulnerable to the onslaught of doom from modern internet scrapers, because the modern internet scraper clicks every link on every page without realizing that they don't need to. See those little yellow tags all over the place that you can't read because the resolution's a bit too low? Every one of those is a link. Do the math. If every page has links like this adds up and it becomes big O of scary. Especially because big Git pack files are stored compressed, and the way that they're compressed is not seekable. So if you're trying to look back for commits way older than the birth of God, then it's going to take a while and be very slow, and nothing's going to be cached, and everything in this stack relies on things being cached for performance, because, like, you know, that's a reasonable set of trade-offs to make. Who the heck is going to look at every commit of GTK from 2004 and older? Like, nobody. It's not a priority because, like, it just hasn't been a problem until about 2 months ago. And this is how Amazon Scraper took down my Git server. I tried some things and they didn't work, including but not limited to things that I cannot say while those cameras are running. I debated taking it offline completely and just having the stuff that I wanted to be exposed publicly be mirrored on GitHub. That would have worked, like, let's be totally honest. But I didn't want to give up. I wanted to get even. Then I had an idea. Raise your hand if you know enough about me to know that that phrase is terrifying. Little more than I thought. Somehow, I ended up on the Wikipedia page for the weighing of souls. Anubis, the god of the underworld, weighed your soul, and if it was lighter than a feather, your heart got eaten, and you like mega died. This felt like a good metaphor. So I had a folder name to pass to Maker. Anubis weighs the soul of your connection using a SHA-256 proof of work challenge in order to protect upstream resources from scraper bots. I tried it. It worked. It was a super nuclear response, but remember, this is what my Git server looked like. I just wanted uptime, man. So it worked. I put it on GitHub. I blogged about it because, like, whenever I make something, I blog about it just to, like, not only give people an idea of what I'm doing, I have to do it for myself so I can remember what the heck I did and why I did it. In the past when I've done this, stuff gets ignored. So I made some placeholder assets with my 4080. I went back to playing video games. I also skeeted about it. I put its own repo recently, and I'm not the only one having this problem. It's kind of taking off. This is so wild and not the problem I usually have. Usually the problem I have is getting people to pay attention. Now the problem is getting people to, like, not pay attention. Like, look at this graph. Every time I do, it makes me laugh. It went hockey stick, yo. It, like, really went hockey stick. It just keeps going up and it's not showing any signs of stopping. This next graph is out of date, but in SRE lore, this is called the mythical second y-axis graph. This is the purple and blue lines the blue and yellow lines are the other two biggest projects that I have, which is my experimental monorepo. That tick up at the end was when people realized Anubis was there, and the yellow one is my blog, which has like 555 articles or something ridiculous like that. So you can understand why that, like, automating Kubernetes thing, it's going to take a while to circle back to, because this kind of exploded. Like, you don't get the second y-axis and, you know, ignore it. The cool part about this in my book is that I had a problem. It was only especially pathological because I made a mistake and I accidentally scheduled the Git server storage on rotational drives. Oops! But it got exposed to problem. I got creative. I tried something. It worked. I published it, and it took off. This is like the standard hero's journey when it comes to open source software, right? And not usually in the hero's journey, you don't have the, oh, by the way, Gnome's GitLab uses it to reduce their server load by 93%. And after not being able to sleep for months, Source Hut adopted it and are finally able to sleep at night. And it protects small community projects, God knows how many Git servers. And I've heard that basically every major open source project is either evaluating it in the process of using it or emailing me in order to figure out what I need to fix in order to make it viable for them. I touched a nerve, man. This all started because of something that was particularly pathological on my Homelab. Maybe I'll be able to quit my day job and focus on this full time. Who knows? In conclusion, if you like it, you should self-host it. Online services are vanishing, everything is centralizing about the big web, and it makes me afraid for what the future of the small internet could be should this continue. Think small. Remember, I started out with a 2012 grade Intel Xeon and 16 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of storage. I later added a 4 terabyte rotational drive over USB. I didn't need more until I did, and then I upgraded. Also, for those of you that don't know, when I get a computer, I use the whole computer. I have been able to reliably make my MacBook warm. This is a hard thing to do with modern MacBooks. If it's fine for me, it's more than enough for you. Also, fuck around, find out. This is not a threat, this is a mission statement. If you get an idea, fuck around, find out, write down what you learned, that's literally science. Okay, you did it with computers, so I guess it's computer science, but you get my point. Also, if bots should come in and start pummeling away, you're not in the room with them, they're in the room with you. Anybody, raise your hand if you're old enough to remember the slow Loris attack. Fun fact, that works server to client too. Consider the following. My time with you is about to come to an end, but before we go, I want to thank everyone on this list. If you're on this list, you know what you did. If you're not, you know what you didn't do. And with that, I've been Z. I'll be around if you have questions. Stay warm. If I don't get to you, please email your questions to homelabtalk@zserv.us. With that out of the way, anyone have any questions? Yes?
Is H the only component of the H language that it evaluates to?
The question was if H is the only component of the H language that it evaluates to, and it's actually internationalization friendly. It also supports the Lojbonic H, which is the ASCII single quote character. Awesome. There's also some grammar features which you might consider bugs. Yes?
What do you use for backups?
What do I use for backups?
What does it actually back up to?
What do I use for backups? Well, my day job is working for an object storage company, so I kind of have a good deal there. But, like, realistically, anything will work. Like, Tigris, the people that pay my capitalism bills, are pretty good at it. I like that they're globally distributed. But, like, realistically, there's so many object storage providers out there that, like, any of them will work. Like, I do some offsite backups of my NAS in AWS S3 Glacier in CA Central 1, purely because I'm pretty sure that Amazon will survive the death of at least 4 countries at this point. Any more? That's it. Okay, perfect. If you have any questions, if you have any other questions, I'll be around. But remember, Homelab talk at zserv.us. I'm on Blue Sky at Xe That's Xeaso.net. I have a blog at the same domain. And yeah, I stream on Fridays on Twitch at Princess Zen. Stay safe, yo.